What's going on, YouTube? I'm back in a minute. Now, I just want to jump right back up into it, and these are just my thoughts, man. These are just my thoughts. So, you gotta feel me on this. Now, so earlier I was saying why I rock with Dan Calloway too. I rock with Dan because I do hold the belief that look, we were here, and it was through war as to why they were able to, take over. And we were at in constant battles. And we got to understand that. Like you said, just look at the dates. 1739, the Stono Rebellion, all right? 1812, the Spanish-American War. 1814, you had the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. 1816, the Battle of Fort Negro. Fort Negro. 1818, the Battle of Suwanee. 1822, the Denmark-Vesey Conspiracy. 1831, you had the Nat Turner's Rebellion. All right, 1835, the Dade Massacre. 1835 again, you had the Battle of Withlacoochee, and 1837 you had the Battle of Okeechobee. All right, when in all of this time you got slavery. All right, and it wasn't until now you have to understand that this was a global mount. All right, these were global efforts. If you notice, even before then, if you take it back, you have to understand that World War II is not World War II. World War II is actually World War III. Okay, because the First World War, even stated by Winston Churchill, was in 1756 through 1763. It was called the 7-Year War. And after that war, these were Europeans fighting all across the globe for territory. All right, so you had the French who controlled Louisiana, their empire. That was Napoleon's empire. All right, he wanted to recapture it. That was the French's empire. Napoleon wanted to recapture it, which they did. So ultimately, he had to end up selling it to the United States because when the United States wanted to purchase Louisiana, they only wanted the adjacent coastal regions and the ports. That's all they wanted. But Napoleon was being weakened by the rebellions in Haiti. All right. And that rebellion was taking place between 1794, 1791 through 1804. So 1791 through 1804, it was taking place then. All right, so he was weakened, so he had to sell to get money to fund his military because he also was about to go to war with Britain. So he needed the money. And that's, so you had the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. All right. So with the Louisiana Purchase, we fail to realize that was 15 states along with 2 Canadian provinces. 15 of our states. That's why you got to understand the territory was bigger than the state. So this is the subtlety. When you say Louisiana Purchase, most people think, oh, they just purchased Louisiana. They purchased 15 states and 2 Canadian provinces. That was the French Empire. All right. This is what you have to understand. That's why I get incensed when people don't know their history, man. It was a global endeavor on a part of Europeans. And then who won the war, was able to tell the story. So then you fast forward to what? 1821. 1821, you have the Adams-Onis Treaty. Adams-Onis, O-N-I-S. All right. And then Spain gave up West Florida, which the United States thought that they had purchased somehow in the Louisiana Purchase. But this is just ways to get Florida because Florida was under Spanish control. Matter of fact, in 1738, you had a city called Garcia Real de Santa Teresa de Mose, which was recognized by General Montanao. Okay, so it was free blacks over there, some possibly who ran from slavery. But if you take into consideration the map that you see in 1763, which the map will show up and it will say 1775, but you will see the small 13 colonies that represented the Americas, the colonies. Too damn small for large slavery. And then what you see is a line set by King George III. Okay, and it's west of the Mississippi in the 49 degree parallel. And that was all that split, basically the whole middle of the United States was considered Indian territory. And the Westerners and the colonizers were mad that they could not colonize the territory. And that's where they were mad at Britain. And that's what started the revolution. Their revolution. You see what I'm saying? And you must know this. So that's why I'm saying that history is incredibly important and how you piece together the puzzles, and these brothers just not doing it. They just not doing it correctly. So even when you take a look at the school systems now in the colonial period, and you're talking about, we know what the colonial period is, or antebellum, or before the Civil War. That's what you have to understand. And during that period of time, school, the education system was more like a transient. If you were a teacher, it was like a transient occupation, which meant that it didn't last long. It was seasonal. All right, and white men dominated that all up into the ages where they were 25. Imagine they were teaching, and they would retire at 25. What you know at that age, and you teaching somebody. All right, and so it went through a transformation, especially in the 1800s, or the 19th century, if you will. And women began to take a bigger part in, elementary schools, and teaching the children at a very young age. And they had this concept called Christian nurture, where they felt like men thought that children were just sinful and were wayward, and women came in and said no, they just need some nurturing, and they will get to the or live up to the expectations we set for them if you use this philosophy. Okay, and with that being said, what happened was that during the 19th century, elementary schools became free, and during the 20th century, elementary schools and secondary schools became free, and then later on in the 20th century, they became compulsory, which means that they force you. You going to school, you're gonna learn, because they understood the importance now of becoming the first one to the mind. All right, they understood the importance of that. So, what are we saying? We're saying that if you look up the stats, almost in the 90 percentile, you have women who teach young kids. Okay, and so you have in the secondary level of education, middle school, high school, all of that, it's usually between 70-30, but still dominated by women. 70% women, 30% men. All right. So why did we say that? Look at the figures. What should the figures tell you? That when we were trying to integrate their schools in the 1960s, because that's what the civil rights movement was supposed to be about. When we were trying to integrate their schools, all right, their schools were what? Dominated by women. So you were taking this little black boy. They wanted you to send this little black boy and this little black girl to be taught by a white woman. Therefore, the black woman would develop her insecurities because white and European was already the standard of beauty. And the black man would develop his insecurities, and he would be taught to be attracted to the white woman because she would be the one dispensing education upon him. She would be the one rearing him when you wasn't rearing him. So she would be the first woman that he really had respect for, because he could also be attracted to her. You can't be attracted. I mean, if your mama cute, whatever, but you're not going to be attracted to her. Okay, so imagine someone who takes your mom place, and you can be physically attracted. And mind you, the physical attraction, we must know, is based off of the skin color alone. This is one reason why you can see black men walking around with practically anything and calling it their wife. And black women be like, man, why he with her? She's so no, because features are determined. Their beauty of features are determined by skin tone. That's how powerful it is, and we already know that. That's why you can have an exceptionally beautiful sister who got big lips and saying my type of nose, and what they're seen as being ugly, but she beautiful as all get out, right? All because of what? Her skin tone. You make her lighter, and what all of a sudden she transform into a knockout. Same features, different skin tone. You understand what I'm saying? This was talked about and expressed in books like Frantz Fanon, Black Skin, White Mask, Eldridge Cleaver, Soul on Ice. All right? So you must understand that, man. That's what I'm talking about. And so anytime that you see me ranting and raving, or you think that I'm being, I'm just doing this because I'm just tired of it, dude. I'm sick and tired of it. I am. My son's sleeping. I'm enraged. Y'all don't know, man. Y'all don't know what I deal with, dude. I'm so passionate about this. I love my people so much. But we gotta do the research. It's just like when I had a situation with my son. My son was sick, and I was telling y'all through the first video. He's getting better now, and took him to the hospital. And the doctor, we go to Allegan Hospital, and the doctor's sitting up there talking about some. As soon as we get in there, it's something called a otoscope, which they use to look in your ear, right? And so he doesn't even, usually most of them got lights on them. He look at my son's ear, and he's like, without the light, it's like, oh, he's got an ear infection. Because when his temperature soared, now mind you, my son's going on 2 years old, he's 20 months, he ain't never been sick. I stayed with a friend of mine, man, for about a month or two, because I was going through some financial troubles and stuff. We stayed in their house. His girl ran a daycare, and they came there sick, and my son did never get sick. And he happened to drink some milk, being which I don't allow in his diet, cow's milk, and at a friend's house who my baby mama was at, and then he came back running a fever of 102 the next day. So of course I got scared. I always want to ensure that it's nothing like or could turn into meningitis, so that's the scariest thing for me. So we took him to the hospital to figure out exactly what was wrong with him. And like I said, the doctor was standoffish, looked in his ear, was like, oh nah, it's an ear infection. And then so I was like, how can and then my baby mother was like, well, how can you tell? And he was like, well, I can just tell. She said, you can just tell that from looking in the ears. And I was thinking to myself, I already know what instrument he's using. Can you tell his fluid behind the ears with no light on the instrument? I'm like, he just must be good. I had to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? So then he goes off and tells me, he's like, has your son ever been vaccinated? I was like, no. They don't plan on it. Then he's like, oh man, well, I've had 5 kids come in here and died to meningitis and all of this different stuff. I was like, dude, I said, I can't help all that, but I got to trust the Most High on this one, man. I was like, what is a vaccination? He was like, what do you mean? I said, you know what a vaccination is. This is the problem with like us. We don't understand that. A vaccine is an attenuated or weakened form of a virus. It's the virus. So when black people are like, oh man, I went and got the shot and I got sick, because they shot you up with the virus. If they ever came out with an AIDS vaccine, they would shoot you up with the virus that causes it. Because the theory is if I shoot you up with a weakened version of it, your body has more time to get used to it, and then you could combat the wild version of it. Okay, so then you have combination viruses, measles, mumps, and rubella, and all of that crap. So I'm like, why would I buy into your wicked ass science thinking that you could shoot my son up with a whole bunch of viruses and his immune system isn't as developed yet? Come on, man. We not. So he was infuriated, walked out the door, didn't even treat my son. Come to find out, it got worse when he got home. And so we rushed him to South Haven's hospital. And then, the lady, as she used her otoscope, okay, looked in his ears, was like, no, his ears are fine. She's like, let me swab his throat. Throat was all painful because it was the coarse cough that really, and like I said, when they have an infection like that, it can turn or develop into a couple of different things. So you can't be arrogant and assume that you just want to know, and then you can take action. So I'm a firm believer in that. And so, like she said, they swabbed his throat, came back, he had strep throat. All right, much completely different diagnosis. Because on one end, if they have an ear infection and the children vomit, that's a way, as always with most of it, that's a way of getting that cold up out of you, getting that mucus up out of you. But with strep throat, it's a little different. First, they're gonna up the dosage of amoxicillin. You might have to take it longer, and in the event that they got strep throat and they begin to throw up, you need to take them back to the hospital. And that just those differences, those different outlooks can be the difference between winning and losing your child or keeping your child. But that's the arrogance of them. And then we have people like I told you before, like Dr. Wesley Muhammad, who still, like we said, not to mention that milk allergies is the most common amongst babies and young adults. Not to mention that, the fact that we're a carbon-based, melanated, superconductive machine. It's no way that we should be entertaining that logic. So when, I brought up the schools and stuff, and, I was talking about the history of how the school system was set up, and then we look at an example like Khan Academy. If you ever been at the collegiate level or even in high school level, you probably have taken some of these courses online, some of these tutorials, all right? And so the story goes is that Khan had a niece or a daughter or something, and she was struggling with algebra. That's my little young man. He waking up a little bit. And she was struggling with algebra. Man, gotta get him back to sleep. But this tool was seen as being so effective that Bill Gates started using his tutorials to teach his children. Okay? And hold on for 1 second, y'all. Okay, John, man. I know that. There you go. Daddy, daddy don't know. I can't. But he was using these tools to teach his children, okay, and then even started funding him. And now this is monthly figures. These are monthly numbers. We're not talking about annual numbers. Okay, the monthly numbers were 20 million individuals visit his site to be taught by him and other aides or people well versed in mathematics, and other sciences. So when you got a person like Dr. Umar Johnson and they peddling you this idea like, oh man, guess what? We need a school, we need an institution, when the vast majority, you go to college, at least 25% of your classes are online, no matter what college you go to. You go, if you're going in the summer, then you 50 to 70 or 75% to 100% of your classes could be online. You can get bachelor's and master's degrees online. So why is this dude talking about a building? Outdated, or what they call antiquated measures. When they learn it now. This is why you stay behind, because you waiting on somebody to build a school. You're like, oh man, yeah, what he did with that stripper and all of that, that don't really matter, man. You have to take someone's character into consideration, man. Just like she said, the reason why she said she came forward is because this man was on the Roland Martin show talking about he was celibate. So if he was lying about that, you don't think that he lying about the money? Because you couldn't give me no money like that. My people couldn't get $1 without my heart being heavy, making sure that I use that dollar to help us in our path, to help clear the path in order so we can walk the path. You understand what I'm saying? Just like I said in the comment, man, when I was talking about these cats, man, referring to them as magicians. I was like, I don't hate because they can do good magic. I just hate that anytime they want to perform their magic, they only using black volunteers. You know them folks, they don't even, how many individuals from that side of the spectrum had they debated? Now, I'm not saying that they won't. I'm just saying that they don't spend a lot of time doing it. They spend a lot of time convincing you to write checks, to support them. And if they're going to do that, you have to ensure it and make sure that their information is accurate so we can make the right decisions. Our children are involved, man. I got time for these swindlers, these hotep hustlers, and you shouldn't either. You know what I'm saying? So when we buy into their philosophy, just like I got certain concepts that I want to point out. I'll be looking to my notes every now and then, and I just, like I said, man, it makes it hard. It makes it hard for me to not. One of the things that I wanted to touch on, because some of it don't, I wanted to give you another, that because I didn't want to forget that the key concepts helps to illuminate the challenges that are set before us. And so when you think about his growth, like we talked about the duality, or the hypocrisy rather, that the Black Panthers talked about, that you have to heighten to make black people aware of, like, because the white man can exist in this duality. On one hand, he can say, I'm a Christian, and on the other hand, he could say, I'm a patriot. How do you do that? You even know, he knows the Bible is his version. He knows that he talked about in the book of Daniel that this was considered the Babylon. And what was the harlot on the beast? What was she wearing? Okay, she was wearing a red dress. All right. So he already knows that, this is Babylon for one. All right. Because there's two concepts that come out of that. Should be alive to you. One is that he's already admitted that this is Babylon. So the very country that you're so proud of and willing to go to war for and die for, you've already admitted that is Babylon in your Bible. But then secularly, they have to contain or maintain this dualism for it all to work. Because it's all for genetic survival. See, when the veil goes up, you already know that this was just used as a weapon or a machine in order for them to become successful and to maintain survival. All right. So when you have them saying that, I know that this is Babylon. I said that's from in my through my religious discourse and my religious rhetoric, but I'm a patriot though, but I still have to fight for it. This is my country. You see how they balance that out, the ability for them to be able to balance it and for you to be able to, like they said, they told you exactly what they did. We separated church and state to give you the illusion that the church does not promote the state. That they wanted to get that through you in their laws, or separation between church and state. Come on, man. That's why God is on the money. So what I'm saying is that too, we talked about the dresses that were worn earlier by other presidents and how this was a culture for centuries in their culture. All right. So them acting or feigning ignorance that, oh, well, a dress is that can be, I don't know why there's gender bias when it comes to clothing. You're a lie, you do know. Because through your religious reasoning, you've always attributed the way a woman's dress is symbolic of her sexuality. That's why the beast, the woman, the harlot that was on the beast wore a red dress. This is one of the reasons why women talk about if she's feeling sexy, she'll put on her little black dress. We all know where the power of symbolism. You messing with a brother that know now, man. I ain't playing with you. I ain't playing with you. I ain't got time for none of these cats, man. So, like I said, when I heard brothers like, Young Pharaoh, which, I used to be a fan of, check out every now and then. Now, like I said, I'm not trying to scrutinize these brothers or offer criticism that's not constructive. I'm not doing this from an unhealthy point in my life, or it's not no unhealthy bias in my spirit that needs some sort of exorcism. That's not it. I'm saying that when that brother makes statements like, "Oh, I've done the more for black people in 30 years than anybody he knew," then nigga, you must not know nobody. Because when you talk about people like the great Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, who let us know that these individuals control all activities of life, all areas of life activity, which was entertainment, education, economics, labor law, politics, sex, religion, and war, who showed us and who conveyed to us the real reason why this war is, and said that if we didn't understand that, everything else about this would confuse us. So the color confrontation theory was it was powerful. Dr. Claude Anderson and his knowledge of economics, Dr. Delbert Blair, Dr. Ben, nigga, I ain't even gotta go on. I just killed you with, how could you ever? You should be somewhere apologizing to the ancestors, man, and be humble and realize that they help to build your foundation, help to build minds. When I seen Dr. Francis Wilson debate Professor Shockley, when he was out there stating that we had weak genes, she put him in his place. She gave him basic lie, and he had to admit to it, that we already know that we have the dominant genes. This is and it's self-evident. It's through empirical data. All you got to do is go have a baby with a white girl, and that baby coming out black. You know this, but then they want to coin it or characterize them as a raceless race. They're not black, they're not white. No, man, because you took the issue, you marginalized skin. You failed to realize, we failed to understand how important skin is. And if you want to take a look at a book by, her name is, the book is entitled Skin by Nina Jablonski. Okay, and that book is a very important book, one of the most important books you'll read, and she talks about, to a certain extent, how important it was for this. She alludes to it, how the powers that be didn't. This is the least studied subject, but yet it's what really determines our quality of life, especially in the United States of America and around and globally. We know that, but especially here. So when you have people who don't understand that, and like I said, they talk about how they are better than these individuals, and who have exceeded the energy and effort put forth than some of our greats. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous because like I said, the European is able to stand in this duality, or experience a duality where when you take down the veil, you can see that this is just another weapon that he is using in order to, or this is another weapon that they're using in order to accomplish their goals. You understand what I'm saying? So this is what makes me, this is what rouses me up, because we have to gain an understanding of these things. We really do, by digging even deeper. And mind you, what we talked about earlier, man, if you're reading something and you can't understand it, you can't read. You must know that. You see what I'm saying? And we need to dig, man. I'm only in this because now I'm like, I got my boots to the ground. I got my cleats in the dirt, ready to put in work. I'm not messing with none of y'all no more, man. And everybody else should be infuriated too because these brothers are not doing enough research. And they keep pacifying you and leading you along, leading you astray. And we get caught up in it because we're not digging deep enough. And I hope y'all can share this video and share some of this information. You know, regurgitate it in whatever form that you feel might be bite-sized so that people not scared of the solid food and they may need just a little bit of it at a time. You know, but this is, like I said, man, I'm not trying to make it seem as if I got it all figured out. But what I do know is that the accuracy of our information has to improve. And that's from being able to look at concepts and be aware of the counter arguments to these concepts or to these ideas, so that we give everybody, all the information, because all the information may not be in your presentation. See, someone else who may differ from an opinion, brings more information to the table. So even if you disagree, the fact that they are bringing more information to the table will that somehow lead us in the right direction. Somehow get you to establish some truth. But we can't do it if everybody has a bias. See, this is me. This has been my life, man. All I have been is an individual who has taken serious the challenge set in front of them, which is to dig deep, to go beyond the surface. You understand what I'm saying? So, like I said, when you have people who proclaim to be doctors, and we conflate that with the other term, and we turn our filters off, and we allow this information to be internalized, and then from the internalization of these concepts, we begin to commit it to action, and then we look up after years of action in the wrong areas that our life is a lot more worse than it was before we had actually came into this information. And we'll never see it. We'll never see it because, like I said, it's like they're the offensive line. If you like, it's the playoffs. So if you into football, then you'll like this analogy. If white supremacy was the quarterback, these boule niggas is the offensive line. You're not going to be able to get to the quarterback until you get through the offensive line. That's what you must know. And that's what we must take into consideration. And that's what I said, man. It's just from the things that I hear, even from the Tariq Nasheeds. I was sitting up watching this brother, and then, and I couldn't believe it because something popped on my feed, something about the Mac Chronicles. I don't know what the hell it was, but, I was thinking, oh, man, maybe they just trying to put this nigga out here, somebody trying to assassinate his character. We all were young-minded at some point in time, and especially how we seen women. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, this can't be nothing as of recent, that's recent. And, the brother was sitting up there talking about something about how some brother called him and wanted advice because he was dealing with some sister who wouldn't put out, and then Tariq Nasheed talked about his experiences in Atlanta when he moved there at an early age, and he was dealing with some chick who didn't want to put out but always talking about her sexual experiences, yada yada yada. And then I'm like, oh, well, okay, this basic stuff, but I'm like, oh, this probably stuff he was just doing before. Nah. And when he had a break, he was like, oh yeah, and go pick up that Hidden Colors. I'm like, man, come on, cuz we I don't know how y'all deal with it, dude. I don't know how y'all deal with listening to this crap without throwing y'all phones, man, against the wall. Cause you paid for them. I guess that's the main reason why you won't do it. But I mean, it's hard for me to get through this stuff, man. And taking I take into consideration that, look, we always like Crumb had mentioned, he had said something to this brother that he was on the phone with who had called him because they were well, it wasn't really a debate. He was just telling him that he felt like it was misleading the people because the world is ruled through signs and symbols, that you would have an African flag when you talk about indigo children, something to that effect. But Crumb, he had suggested that, as long as people's intent was pure, that's what we'll more or less be judged for. Now I'm just paraphrasing because, You know, that wasn't his complete response, but that's, you know, that was the gist of it. He's like, man, I'm busy. You know, it's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, you know, I could have did a better job to do this, that, and the other. But like he was saying, my intent is pure. And so, you know, I take that into consideration that most brothers and sisters' intent are pure, but we must dig deeper. You have to understand that this is one of the reasons why they pay people to do these things, and at the secular level, because they take it serious, you know, and maybe because brothers not getting paid enough and they not getting the houses and the cars and the clothes that they feel some type of way, and they giving you this garbage, you know, which I mean, it maybe if it does enough to give you a spark, I get that, cool, but this is time sensitive. There's a sense of urgency that is unprecedented for us, and I'm telling you that this is Heru Heinous, and I'm riding, and I'll put more videos up, and I'll just be spazzing out. Forgive me if it felt like I ran off into on tangents, but hopefully you get the gist of where I'm coming from. This is the FOF Squad, Facts Over Feelings. Keep your feelings at the door so we can get to the facts. I'm out.